right. Well, thanks everyone for joining today. As we, marketed this one, it's going to be quite the open forum. I did get a number of questions that came through the registration, so I was going to start there with some of these questions, but if they spark other things and we go different directions, by all means, we can go there. If anyone has a burning question, feel free to jump in and throw it out there. But I guess to get started, one of the questions that came up was the best early bird offers for getting groups booked. Also, best non-game day events that package with groups with tickets and vouchers. So I'll throw that out to the crew. Are there any early bird offers if you are starting to sell groups again, or if we're talking about non-game day events that package a group ticket and a voucher with some sort of event? What things are out there, what's worked, even what's worked in the past that may be something we can bring back as we open back up. Any ideas on that one? Anybody doing packaging? I know I was talking to Philip Fisher at the Bucks, and they were looking at packaging their business summit with like the virtual business summit. Once they know the schedule, that they'll package it, the virtual business summit, with a ticket to a game, and they would choose the game. But at a game, you would get a special kind of networking function or networking event with one of the panelists from the virtual business summit. So I know that was a concept that was being talked about that's kind of like in the works right now in Milwaukee. But other ideas of packaging group tickets with non-game day events? No
We've
one?
got a bunch of ideas, but we haven't executed any of them just yet.
Okay. Any worth sharing, Carl, or no? Not yet.
Not
Okay.
yet. I've gotten
Okay.
a lot of great ideas from like these forums and stuff, but the people above me are still a little hesitant as to how much we want to open and what we want to do.
Gotcha. Anybody want to comment on that one, or we could go to another question?
Yeah, I'll be more than happy to talk about it. It's definitely something that we've done in the past where we package a non-game day event with a ticket, right? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, that's what the question was, yeah.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So a couple things I've done in the past, I've put together a technology forum that was hosted down here in South Florida, and there were maybe about 350 people in attendance. And so that was a paid event, but what they ended up doing, what they really paid for was a ticket to the game, right? So when they got the event, they're like, oh, this is great. And everybody that registers also receive 2 complimentary tickets to a game. So from that event, we were able to pack the house and had maybe about 600 people that were able to move some tickets. So that worked out pretty good. And in addition to that, the revenue was like well over $20,000. So that was definitely a highlight. And we did another one with a nursing event called White Coats and Cocktails. Once again, it's a speaking forum where there are about 200 nurses from the Tri-County area. They all came out, networked, heard from different nursing professionals, and that also included complimentary tickets to a game. So they pay for the event, but what they really paid for was tickets to the game.
Yeah, Denise, I'll chime in as well.
Okay.
Kyle with the Timber Rattlers. We do a Valentine's dinner at the ballpark in one of our hospitality areas, and then couple it with some ticket vouchers to a game. So 2 date nights, Valentine's dinner, and then a date night to a game later in the year. So normally pushes 500 tickets. It's 125 couples at each dinner, 2 dinners. So looking about 250 tickets each dinner, so 500 tickets about.
So it's maximizing
So
off-season time for you, right? Sorry,
Yeah,
go ahead,
correct.
Thomas.
Yeah, Kyle, talk a little bit about what that evening looked like. Was there live entertainment? Did you guys have a DJ? Was there a dance floor, open bar?
Yeah, so what we do for the Valentine's dinner, so you do have the option to buy a suite if you want to do dinner in the suite. Otherwise, it's out in our Fox Club, which is our hospitality area that we use for corporate events and weddings. tickets. We set up tables there, so you can either do couple or just solo couple, or a double date with another couple, and have a table of 4. We have an executive chef and sous chef on staff, so they prepare the dinner. It's a 3-course dinner with a bottle of champagne or wine, and then a rose as well, and then 2 tickets to a later game.
And which is very, very interesting, right? Dinner, was it, and I'm assuming it was Valentine's night. Who was your target audience?
Yeah, so we do 2 of them. Normally we do, depending on when Valentine's Day falls, if it's on the weekend or during the week, we normally do 2 nights, just kind of depending on the schedule. And then a lot of it is geared towards, like, we do a lot of weddings at the ballpark, so we reach out to all those people. And then more of the couple, I guess you would say, somebody looking for a date night away from the kids. So kind of a older demographic, I guess.
So did you send this out to your database, or did you like reach out to different church groups? Like, what did that look like? Or did you partner up with, like, I don't know, like Bumble or eHarmony or something like that?
No, so it was through our email database, and then Facebook page, put on our Facebook.
Okay.
And then our event staff, they have a list of people that they reach out to as well. So go out to 2 different databases, our ticket database and then our event
Interesting.
database as well.
Very cool idea.
Denise, we have one too here that's with Clark with the Pistons, and obviously we do a bunch of dark days with tickets attached, basically everything we do. I think most recently an example I have is we did a virtual 5K that we kind of teamed up with our community relations department, and they helped us with a little bit of getting it off the ground and the logistics of it as far as running it on social media and things like that. But really, it was really successful from a ticket standpoint. So basically you could sign up for a virtual 5K. We did a 5K week where you could send us your time via social media and a hashtag and a picture of you running it during a week. This is the last week in August. And we sent them you signed up for a package, and the package included a ticket to a game next year. It included like a t-shirt for and a medal and a bib, just like they would have gotten at a real 5K, and then a donation back to a local charity that we tied in as well. And so I felt like we gave them enough value that it justified a cost to do this virtual. And we sold 110 tickets for it for a game this year if we have them. But and then what we'll do is, since the tickets are gameless right now, we'll send them an offer of maybe 2 or 3 games that they can select from, and then we'll just buy on tickets later. But to get 110 tickets from a virtual event in August, I felt like was pretty successful for us.
Yeah, Clark, do you mind sharing how much you guys charged for that package?
$29.
$29. Okay. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and chime in. I can't take credit for this idea, but yeah, I participated in a career fair with the Titans. They hosted one and asked a lot of area teams to pitch in and help come down there. So when I was with Louisville Bats, we came down and participated in this, and they probably brought anywhere from 400 to 500 job applicants just to interview, just to speak with teams. And they were basically charging the price of a future ticket for that event. So it was a very nice event. That's kind of what prompted me to ask the question, because I know there's some more out there where you can utilize, dark dates in the calendar.
In my previous job in San Antonio, we did not a career fair, but we did a networking event on a dark day as well for local businesses. And actually, as it turned out, it kind of evolved into a career fair as well too, as we had job seekers show up because they had heard about it as well. And they showed up with business cards to hand out to the companies that were there. So it kind of molded into that, but also it allowed the businesses to network with each other as well too. And we opened it up to our season ticket holders as well too. So it was a mix of season ticket holders, and since it was at our stadium as well, we also got to show off our group experience platforms to the businesses that were there too. Obviously, this was during a different time before COVID took over, so we could sell, large group platforms and that sort of thing as well. But it still kind of accomplished three things. It was a job seeker thing. It was a way to show off our stadium, and then it was a way for businesses to network with each other and grow their businesses that way as well. And so we didn't charge for single admission for this for the first time we did it anyway. But how we made money off of it was to charge the companies that set up vendor spaces there. They would buy a group block of tickets, or essentially pay for their space, and that money would be applied to a block of group tickets later on for a game that they could use for their employees later on and stuff as well. So that's how we generated ticket revenue off of that Dark Day event.
Very cool. I think to Kyle's point about the Valentine's dinner, you could also look at like, daddy-daughter dinners, mother-son dinners, like those could be really applicable events. And I think too, in the dynamic that we've been in where families been together all at the same time, does that play even more, that being able to separate one, the son going with the mom for dinner, like that could be a really cool atmosphere right now as well.
I'm curious to know, I got to go back to the Valentine's Day event. So Kyle,
Yeah,
if you don't mind, like what was your ticket package for that event? And I asked that question because we all know that stadium and arena catering is not cheap by any stretch. And you had a 3-course meal along with you said a bottle of rosé or champagne or something like that.
Yeah, so the great thing about us is we do all of our food internal, so we can kind of offset that cost. So we did the dinner and then 2 ticket vouchers. I believe it was $125 for a table and $150 if you wanted the suite or private for the suite.
And that's $115 per person?
No, for the couple.
Wow, sign me up.
So, yeah, you bet.
I was going to say, can I get 4 of those?
So it's a pretty cost-effective dinner here, and then we get 2 tickets with it. So.
Yeah, it would be a lot more pricey, I'm sure, in your venue there, Thomas.
Yeah, in South Florida, yeah.
Kyle, I would pay $150 if you included a second bottle of rosé and an Uber ride home voucher. That would be it for me. I'd be good to go.
There you go.
What about those shirts from last week? What was it?
The Udder Tuggers.
Udder Tuggers. You need an Udder Tuggers shirt with that too, right?
There you go. Yeah. And we did a 2020 Udder disaster as well. So.
Oh, nice. 2020 Udder disaster. I might be reaching out to you to get one of those. That's nice. Unless they're sold out.
Yeah, we did a limited time special pre-sale only. So we did 3 different shirts. We did 2020 is the worst with a brat, 2020 bites, and then 2020 utter disaster. Sold about 700 shirts. So.
Yeah, Kyle, question for you and Thomas as well, since you guys are in different sports. Kyle, since your Valentine's Day is during the off season, did the ticket was like a flex voucher for any game the following season? And then Thomas, if you did it during your season, are you going to tie it to a game specifically, or would that be a flex voucher as well?
We do. Yes, ours is a flex voucher. It does exclude Wednesdays and Saturdays. Wednesdays are our bang for your buck night, and then Saturdays are just a firework night. So we exclude those 2 days of the week, but otherwise it's an open-ended voucher.
Yeah, I think with us, a lot of it would depend on how many tickets are sold. So if we're able to sell, a few hundred tickets, then we'll make it, a flex package. Other than that, we'll more than likely try to zoom in on the game that we think we're going to need help for.
One other idea too, Thomas, you could do is if you're worried about cost, instead of making it a full dinner, make it dessert and drinks, like dessert, drinks, and the game. So maybe they go to dinner somewhere else first, and then they come and they have a bottle of champagne and some sort of fancy dessert, and you can set up a table, like a bar table for 2. That could be an option too. So if you're tying it to a game, maybe there's a bigger hospitality area where you could do that. Just a thought.
Yep.
Because I get it. Catering is crazy. All right, so the next question we had was, and I think this is a very interesting one, so I don't know if anyone has examples of this yet, but how are you creating a seating map based off of social distancing guidelines? And are you having group specific areas? So has anyone gotten into the seating chart realm? And I know, Mitch, you have had games with fans, so you may be a good person to speak on this, but what does that look like?
Yeah, we're no groups for this year. We just don't have the availability with 9,000 season ticket holders and going limited capacity. We didn't have the ability. Also, in our plan to the health officials, groups were kind of out of the question because contact tracing, and we had to be very strict about putting people in a family pod in our seating arrangement. So the max we put together was like group of eight, and we knew that it was the same family, so it was family of four. So it made it tough for us, and with our capacity, we got approved up to 50%, but when we started distancing out, 6 feet it's a monster of a distance, because we ended up losing quite a bit of our capacity. So we have 9,000 chair backs. We can only use about 2,700 of those. So 7,000 each match go empty. And then in our standing rooms, we're able to do close to 50% in the standing rooms, but we're only getting, our max capacity is 15,304. We're only getting close to 5,000 per game. So we're closer to 30% than actual 50% when we put all the protocols in. We feel like next year things will be a little bit more normal, and we're planning for that. So, for groups now, we're just telling them, hey, we're having matches in the height of COVID now. We feel like things are going to go in the right direction. And so we'll have a plan for groups next year.
Anyone else navigating that, the seating chart? Kyle, you guys are?
Yeah. So we just announced actually today we have a charity softball game that was postponed earlier this year. It's actually rescheduled for October 11th. So we'll be doing a charity softball game. We've done a few other events here at the ballpark that have had assigned seating. I would just urge people to think about aisle seats. Everybody thinks aisle seats are the good ones, but everybody's walking down the aisle. So we're actually putting people off the aisle in the middle of the rows. And then let's say we have 16 seats in a row, starting at seat number 3 or 4, and then only going to seat number 12. So you have room from the aisle to the actual seat, and just doing a group of 4 separated by 6 feet, another group of 4. So you're not having people climb over other people, obviously. But I think a lot of people just assume we can go right on the aisle, and I would urge people to maybe think about that a little bit more and maybe go in the middle of the rows instead of the aisles.
I'll piggyback off of Kyle as well too. We also skipped aisles. We had our first home football game this past Saturday, UTEP versus Stephen F. Austin. So they kind of made the map before I got on site here, but our system was, since most of our stadium is bleacher style seating instead of chair backs, we also did skip 2 seats off the aisle of every row. So we did not sell seats 1 or 2 or the other opposite end either. We also skipped rows. So every other row was sold, and we kept a gap in between, odd number, even number rows. And then in between parties is a minimum of 4 seats spread out to the right or left as well. And so to cover the issue that Kyle talked about of climbing over each other, even if you do share a row with a family that's not your family, they can step down 1 row or up 1 row to get past you if they need to as well. So we only had a limited amount of complaints as far as people kind of creeping over too close to a different party or something like that, or the ushers not checking tickets properly. Only a handful. I think for the most part, people behaved themselves and wore their mask when they were supposed to, and stayed in their assigned sections and stuff as well too. So that was kind of our standard, and we sold tickets for the most part in blocks of 2s, 3s, and 4s. And if they needed a party bigger than that, then they'd have to kind of split up their party, or we had a few held back that they would need to call us by phone for us to place them into. But if they went online and bought, it was only 2s, 3s, and 4s, and spread out with no fewer than 4 seats in between each party for us.
chime in on what we're doing at Spinzo with regard to social distancing. Another concept is this concept of the dynamic pod model or dynamic allocation. So what we're trying to pioneer is a concept where you don't pre-allocate the pods. Instead, you input the rules in the system. And then as people go in, whether they want 2 seats, 3, 4, 5, or 6, our system just keeps spacing people out accordingly across all the rows or skipping rows. And you could apply this even in situations where seats have different widths. So maybe in the upper bowl, your seats are a little narrower. And so there you need 4 seats distance. In the lower bowl, maybe it's 3. So the system can accommodate for that. I'm sure there are other tools doing similar techniques to what we are, but that's an approach that we're taking. So you could talk to your vendors and they might have some solutions for you as well.
What we're doing right now is we're actually just doing general admission. We haven't had any events yet, but we're pushing towards general admission because we know full well, like our season ticket holders or people are going to come, they're going to sit where they want with whom they want. And so even if we try to just say, you got to be in these reserved seats. Now we have, if we start selling, we've already put out there that we're going to say, you know, if you're not sitting with your family, you know, you're putting yourself at risk. You better hope that your friends are just as safe as you are. We also don't have infrastructure as far as like ushers to be patrolling every row or every section even. And we're trying to, we never had that beforehand, and they're trying to cut back. So, you know, our look at it is like, hey, this is going to be general admission for this year, and it's on you guys to self-distance. And we did actually have, when this all started, we were hosting a conference tournament. So we had a couple days where we kind of implemented that policy and people were able to self-distance. And we're fortunate, I mean, in a backwards way, we have a big venue and we don't have a crowd's usually probably going to be 1/5 the size. So it gives people more chance to self-distance on their own. And as far as like looking at basketball, I've recommended, you know, taking out, we're not going to have courtside seats. I recommended taking out the first 3 rows down low, and even like the first row in like our upper deck where you'd have anywhere that you'd have some kind of more close contact to the people on the aisles or the people down courtside.
And Thomas, what university are with you? You're with the university, correct?
Yeah, I'm with Elon University. And
Elon, so perfect.
Football and basketball. Football obviously got pushed. We set everything out, and now we're just setting up stuff for basketball right now.
Perfect, thank you. And then Michael had a question. How do season ticket holders feel about being moved so far for social distancing? I don't know, Mitch, maybe you probably be the best person to answer that. Like, what was that like for you guys?
Yeah, it was, some weren't happy, but you got to get in front of, you got to get in front of the communication ahead of time. You got to let them know what the plan is. Hey, we've got games coming back to our home market. The governor has approved us to do X%. What that means for you is this: we're going to go through, we listed out all of our protocols, and as far as social distancing, we had already put together kind of our order of priority. They kind of selected in the order of priority. Reason why we have almost 5,000 per game is we kind of stretched it a little bit because 5,000 of the 9,000 season ticket holders opted. They wanted to come to games this year. Everybody else rolled it to next season. So the ones that we spaced out, some people weren't happy. They usually have a chair back. Now they're in a standing room only location. And that's just, but we just had to, adhere to the rules that the governor approved for us and kind of regulated as to this is the process. And so communication with some was tougher than others, but you got to get ahead of it. You got to explain the why and how you're going about, making it work. And after a couple games, they kind of understand it and they're good with it. There's some that, due to, health issues, they can't stay in the entire game that we've tried to make special, circumstances for, and you'll have that, but it's really case by case. I mean, most people were like pretty ecstatic that they could even come to the match as it is and come to the game. So case by case on all those situations.
Anyone else have any experience with that thus far?
Well, I haven't had any experience. Well, we haven't had any experience with that so far, but what I do, I've read I read this a couple weeks ago that a lot of groups are actually thinking and entertain the idea of moving into suites, right? So suite demand is becoming very popular among groups that never really thought about suites. Now they're thinking, all right, you know what? Because people in the suites are the individuals that I know. So that's a really creative idea when you think about social distancing.
All right, next question. We had, has anyone continued to be paid as normal with commissions and such, or has everyone had some sort of pay cut or commission freeze? So, I mean, obviously can speak in generalities, you know, are commissions continuing to be paid if you're selling something? How is that working? You know, it's a great question.
In Louisville, we froze it for a couple months.
Okay.
And, you know, it was, you know, I got to give credit to our sales team. You know, the executive leadership team took cuts so that we didn't have to furlough. And they really came up with the idea themselves, like, hey, like if, you know, cash flow is an issue, we'll take defer commissions for a couple months. Which was a tough conversation, but it was a great conversation. I was really proud of the team, the way they opted to do that. So we did it for a couple months. Then we realized we were going to have games in July. And so they're really happy because they got all that back paid. Now that we're in a situation where we kind of know what the future is, we were fortunate enough where we didn't have to, you know, there were a few refunds we had to do on some season tickets. And we did that, but we did not, you know, make them bear the paying back any commission. Not everyone's going to be in that situation, but that's just kind of how we handle it.
The Pistons were paying commissions, which is right now mostly packages, but it's approved.
So we had frozen commissions the last few months. Executive team took a pay cut, but we just announced that we are starting to pay out commissions now. And for the immediate future, what we did too is instead of paying individual commissions based on what you've sold, we've kind of made like a group effort because we had to furlough. We furloughed half our staff. So the ones that are remaining inherited several hundred accounts from other reps. So it's hard to say like, well, did you renew it because of your sales ability or they were to come back? And so we thought the fairest way is like, let's get everybody universally paid out based on our percentage goal. So we've been doing that. And then we added a draw into it as well. So the reps are working back against a draw, but we've set it up as such that they'll never have to pay anything back to the company if they don't hit their sales targets. It's paced out that way. But we also did bake in incentives too, that if a rep does outperform, they can earn above their draw and above the communal commission so that there's still motivation and incentive on the individual level.
We're still getting paid out here on the Chargers side, not on you know, groups. We haven't been able to sell any groups on, you know, single games for the Chargers yet out here in California. But you know, we're still getting paid out on single or on season ticket member purchases for next season, kind of rolling forward. So that's been beneficial for us.
Any other comments on commission or pay structures? Questions? All right, so the next question, and I think there's a lot of people that have some advice on this. Someone's they work with Ticketmaster Arctics and they're looking to switch entirely to mobile ticketing. Any advice or like, you know, bewares if you switch fully to mobile ticketing? Carl, you're smiling from ear to ear. Clearly you have some stories or some advice.
Yeah, I just got hit with this yesterday. And please, if you have a solution, let me know, but I've yet to work with a ticketing provider that has a good group solution. So like we made it so if you're under 25, if your group is between 10 and 25, then you have to do mobile. You know, that's your only choice, because that is relatively easy for a group leader to divvy out those seats. Anything above 25, we're still printing and sending. Because I mean, we all know like a group leader could show up and yeah, they have 50 tickets on their phone. We could scroll through, that's fine. But then where do those people sit once they get inside the building? And there's no way. I know the flash sheets, Veritix, access teams, like they get seat locators to make it a little bit easier. Once you get inside, people actually know where they're sitting. But at least for us, Ticketmaster has not come out with a solution like that. So we struggle with groups on digital.
Are most teams printing group tickets, even though they're building maybe mobile only? Are you printing like traditional groups? Yeah, Kyle, you see, yeah.
So with the Dallas Wings, we use a platform called Groupmatics. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with that, but that's something that's been super successful. So we've completely gone from printing tickets to strictly using Groupmatics if it's over 25 people. We're able to, you know, pick what sections and only open up certain sections for those groups to use. And then each person who buys a ticket through that particular code is in that section for that group. So the group leader is able to actually send everything out. LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and email blasts. There's multiple platforms they can use through Groupmatics, and then you can track everything. So that's what we use, and it's been really successful the last 2 years for us.
Yeah, with the Josh of the Pittsburgh Pirates, what we did the past couple of years to incentivize groups to go digital with either log on to their account and forward tickets to people or use mobile on their tickets, we loaded a hat voucher on the barcode of the ticket. So those groups that want an extra perk for their members, they were able to redeem a hat at the ballpark on the barcode. They took their game ticket, their phone to a designated area, redemption area. We scanned it and we passed everybody a hat. So incentivizing people for mobile tickets, that's one thing that we found very beneficial.
Good idea.
We'll share the ultimate nightmare story that happened last year.
Go for it, Carl. Should we pull up some popcorn?
Yeah, no. So the Bucks in there, when they opened the new stadium 2 seasons ago, all season tickets, all plan sales, your only option is digital mobile ticketing. And it was game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals, and Ticketmaster completely crashed. And like you couldn't even log into Arctics. So we had about 8,000-9,000 people in our atrium that couldn't get in. If you had not saved your tickets in your wallet, there was no way to access them. We literally reached a point where we just started letting people in, and whether they had a ticket or not, we're like, just find a seat. And if the system turns back on, please go back to your designated seat. The good thing that happened was all the Ticketmaster executives came to that game to show, see how their system works. And they were there to see the absolute nightmare of a customer service that it was. And within a week after that, they installed 3 different, safety measures and fail safes to prevent that from ever happening again. So I endured it on behalf of everybody. You're welcome.
In the height of the playoffs, it wasn't just like a normal regular season game. This was like the height of the playoffs.
And yeah, the system did not turn back on until like 10 minutes into the first quarter. So fun.
Technology is fun, but can have its challenges. Whew. All right. So these 2 questions kind of go together. The one question was, how are people selling now? And then how do you plan on approaching your groups or group sales with COVID restrictions in place? So I think, those are kind of together in the like, what are you selling now? And then as you think about groups, who has been thinking about groups? And I know we're all in different places with our seasons, but how are you going to approach that with COVID restrictions?
So for us, as we're thinking about next year, with only 3 matches left, groups will go into our standing room areas. We wouldn't assign seats. We would basically put them in that inventory. So it's kind of like the group kind of congregates in one of the, we got this real, one end of our stadium is completely open, and it's got high top tables and they can kind of just fill in and mingle there. It's the only really solution that we have. Like I said, we're hopeful that we'll be able to go back to a little bit of normal next year, where we can actually put them in seats, but that's kind of how we're thinking through it right now. Let's put them in a standing room only where it's kind of everybody's just kind of there and groups are there too. And trying to do maybe some pre-activation and like outside of the stadium or something like that.
I mean, the now for us is deposits, just trying to still close as many deposits as we can. We have like an early incentive deadline at the end of this month to get like a quarter zip pullover and a branded hat. Just trying to get any kind of urgency. We're doing a lot of enrollment in our corporate super group program. Just trying to get the hand raisers that say, yeah, when you're back up and running, we'll start taking offers. And that's really about it. And maintaining relationships with like our theme night people and large group people who we've got everyone queued up, ready. We just need an actual schedule and the green light to have people in the building. Outside of that, candidly, we've shifted. I'm the only one, me and my manager, we're the only people working on groups in our organization. We've shifted all reps to planned sales right now. That's where the business is needed.
Anyone else want to comment? This is another question that got posed. What are some theme events that you've had that you were surprised by? What is a theme that you think every team should do and why? So I know we talked theme nights last week, but I think this is a great question of like, is there an event that you planned that you were like, whoa, like I couldn't believe that took off. And Steve, thank you for chiming in with your Valentine's Day stuff.
Outside of like the normal heritage ones, you mentioned Phil Fisher earlier. He was my rep in Milwaukee, and he did this event called just Space Jam. And it was going to be like your standard FBLA, FCCLA, DECA day, where we just thought, let's get kids interested in science to come down and learn. And our model had always been the students just buy their tickets and they come to the game. He found the Wisconsin Space Grant Consortium, and we looked it up. Every single state, all 50 states have a space grant consortium. Their sole job is to promote science, to get kids interested in science and mathematics to go into aerospace jobs, because there's like American colleges are not currently turning out enough students to fill the jobs here. So they stepped right up and they sponsored the whole event. They gave us several thousands of dollars to just straight up sponsor it. And then we sold vendor space to like 30 aerospace companies in Wisconsin that are actively recruiting. And so no one that attended the event had to buy their ticket, and we split it. It was half college kids, half high school students. So we also we had 30 vendors from like companies that were hiring, but then we also had like 10 or 15 colleges in Wisconsin that had aerospace and mathematics, programs. So they were recruiting college students, the companies were recruiting others, and the entire tab was picked up. Over the course of 3 years, we started upping how much we were charging, to the point where like we were also throwing in like a suite rental, so that if they met like really good people on their concourse, they could invite them into the suite that night to keep recruiting. And hugely successful event. Totally changed our idea of like making students pay for it. Just get someone to underwrite it up front, which is nice. So look up your Space Grant Consortium in your home state. I'm sure they'd love to talk to you.
That's awesome. Good insight. Any other surprising ideas? Got a quiet crew today. No one wants to share. Okay, another question. How do teams work with youth sports leagues and indoor facilities? So someone wants just to understand, like, what are the different programs you're doing with youth sports leagues or other indoor, like, sports facilities? I think this could be past or present. I don't think this has to be currently right now.
I could say something. I've used this different sports and different teams, and from minor leagues to colleges, etc. What we always did was, like, end of the year youth teams, they always traditionally have like an end of the year party, get together for their team. And so what we do is a trophy ceremony, which would be on the court or on the field. And we contact the coaches and say, you know, and what are you doing at the end of the year? And traditionally we call them like about 4 weeks into the season, because the first couple of weeks, they're still trying to figure out what they're doing. Then they're like, okay, they're kind of in a groove by 4 weeks in. We contact them. We say, this is a trophy ceremony. Like, what are you going to do at the end of the year? First, we ask them. They're like, oh, I don't know, probably go to Cece's Pizza or something. Well, I was like, well, instead of doing that, why don't you come out and see Division I athletes play a game? And we will, at the end of the game, we will introduce each player one by one, and we'll have a coach, our mascot, and one of our players actually hand you the trophy on the court. And they love it. And you know, you can expand upon it. We're like, hey, what kind of food options do you have there? And we're like, well, we can get you some deals of like the pizza or hot dogs, whatever it may be. And what we've done is, when you've tried to talk to like a league director, again, the league director is working with 20 teams, angry parents, angry coaches, you know, he's got so much going on, but we say, hey, just give us the list of each coach. And we just go coach by coach, where he's just there with his 8 players. And he's looking for something to do. And it's like, wow, this is a great idea. And then what we charge everybody. We don't say it's free for the kids or the coaches. Everybody pays the group rate. And then what happens is, of course, they bring friends and family to come out there. And we've had some, once they do it once, they love it. And we've had them do it year in and year out. We've had some that like coach, you know, some of these parents coach like multiple teams. So they're like, I got 2 or 3 teams that come out there and do it. And then as far as like expediting the whole thing, people are like, well, that's a lot of work. Well, a lot of the coaches love to have, hey, it's a chance to get extra fans in the stands. And they have like the low coach on the totem pole, and they have one of the freshman players who doesn't play go out there and do the event after the game. And so it's not a lot of manpower for the coaches itself. And then like I would do like the PA, we'd have interns, and we'd kind of like, if we were basketball, we'd set them up in 4 corners and just send them across. And I think the record was, I mean, we had one game where we did 30 teams. And it probably took us about 35 minutes, because it just took the time of us, here's the coach's name, player 1, player 2, player 3, and just go right through it. And, you know, that was 1,000 tickets for a game when all together, when you know, these people. So every team is always, youth team is going to have like an end of the year party. Or if you look at 30 teams, some of them won't, but I mean, I bet you the majority will. Now here's an opportunity for you. Why don't you come out to a ball game, and you can see players at the top level playing basketball or baseball or whatever sport it was for you. And then, you know, you can get a ticket, and you get this forever memory that you're just getting announced on the court, and you're getting to meet a player and get your trophy done. So that's something I've done through the years, starting back with my NBA days and going, you know, through college, and it's always been successful.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing. I like the concept of the trophy. You know, I mean, that's amplifying that experience as opposed to, like you said, being at Cece's Pizza, which is the typical youth sports end of year banquet.
And they would bring, you know, they supply the trophies. And if some of them like, okay, we have trophies, some will have, oh, is it okay if I have medals? And I'm like, that's fine. Or some are like, I don't have either of those, but I'm going to create a certificate. Can I just do that? And when you have like 10 groups coming to a game, inevitably, like maybe 2 or 3 of them might be like, you know what, I couldn't get the trophies, but you know what, we're just going to come and just sit there and enjoy the game and not have to go worry about anything else. I'm like, they already bought the tickets, so it's just less work for us to have them go down and be escorted onto the court and taken care of post-game.
Hey, Denise, I'll chime in. built a relationship with a local tournament director, hosts tournaments every weekend. So part of his packet that he sends out prior to the tournament and with the registration, he'll include some tickets with it. If they prefer to come to a game, like I say, the tournament starts Saturday, but a team's traveling from further away, they want to come Friday night, come to a game. We'll get them tickets to the game, and then he kind of sets it up with the team that sells the most tickets, gets to do our Field of Dreams, which is running out with the national anthem. Not sure if we'll be able to do that moving forward, obviously, with COVID and everything, but we'll see about the future of the FEPs. And then we'll also do if they hit a certain threshold for tickets, we'll do a ballpark tour. So typically it would be just Saturday morning. Before the tournament start, we'll say, hey, at this time, we'll give you a tour of the ballpark before they start playing their games, where he sets a time in his tournament that nobody plays that day or at that specific time. It takes us a half hour to walk around the stadium, and then they come to the game that night or the night before, whatever. But that was a pretty good relationship we built. And then working with the convention bureau, they normally know what tournaments are coming into town. So building a relationship with them and just, they normally send us an Excel sheet with, hey, this is the tournament, this is the director. And then we go from there and start hitting the ground running. So building relationships with those people is huge.
Thank you. So we have a little over 10 minutes left in our time. So I want to just open it up to anyone that has questions that they want to ask to the group, or you want to throw out ideas. Hey, has anyone done this before? Feel free to throw out your questions.
Well, I don't have a question per se, but I guess I wanted to use like the back half to really talk about like who we are and how amazing it is that we all have a very, very unique platform as individuals in your community, right? Whether you work for an NFL team, NHL, or what have you. And I know the Blackhawks just did it not too long ago, but the Florida Panthers, we just partnered with the Sacramento Kings, and it's called Rally to Vote. And I bring this up because when we think about ourselves as sports teams, we really have to use the platform that we have to really make a difference in our communities, right? So, growing up as individuals, we all in the sports industry, most of you guys, I'm looking at you guys now, most of you guys are probably like in your 20s. So I just sent a link about like the top 15 or 20 things that professionals do in their 20s that makes them successful in their 30s, right? So I feel that that's something that we didn't really talk about much in terms of professional development, right? What are we as sales professionals doing, or what we done 10 years ago that made us successful today, right? And what are we doing now that could help us encapsulate who we are as professionals? And, you guys take a look at the link. There's a lot of information, but really good stuff in terms of, networking with professionals, in terms of, doing daily exercise, in terms of, being more community minded. So when we think about community minded and the platforms that we have, this is a really, really important time in our generation to make sure that we remain engaged. And the next couple months is going to be the matter of like where we are, where we want to be. So I encourage you guys to look up the Rally to Vote is through the Sacramento Kings, and it's about being community minded and getting out there to vote, because this is the opportunity where we can make a difference. Like, I'm really tired of like sitting on the sidelines of life and allowing things to happen to us, and we just like let it go. So I remember last week we brought the topic about Heritage Night and who we are. Like, when we reach out to different groups, we have to be a lot more authentic in terms of, once again, back to who we are. We gotta be very authentic. We gotta be extremely sensitive, and we can't be silent for those that are voiceless. So I just want to say that just to make sure that we are all doing the right things in our communities, right? Not all of us have an opportunity to have that platform, but the 40, 50 of us that's on this call now, I encourage you guys, like, think about your communities and think about how we can make a difference. In the process of making a difference, Denise and Emmanuel, in the process of making a difference, we are going to identify people and organizations that say, hey, wow, Florida Panthers, the Blackhawks, Sacramento Kings, like, you guys are doing these things in the community. You guys are active participants in the community. How can we get more engaged with organizations that are very, very community minded? So I just want to say that, but I just felt that it was very, very important for us to talk about that, because it's great that we talk about how we find creative ways to put cheeks in the seats, but it's also important to focus on being community minded, and also very important to focus on professional development.
I agree with you. You know, I think it's giving back. In giving back, I always believe, you know, like in karma, like if the more you give back, the more you give, the more will come back to you. And so, you know, in the best way, shape, and form possible. And you're right, where all of us sit, whether you're with a minor league team or a major league team, you know, you are the show in town. And I remember when I worked for the Pittsburgh Pirates way back when, I would go to Wheeling, West Virginia, and they'd be like, oh, the Pirates are here, the Pirates are here. And I'm like, where are the Pirates? Like, they're like, you're the Pirates. And they don't see us as different from anyone else in our organization. Your pay scale may not be the same as someone else in your organization because they're on the ice or the field or the court, but they still see you as that organization, and you have to remember that. And you can make a difference, and you could build great, amazing relationships and really make a difference in your community just in the platform and just in the seat that you sit in. So it's a very great point. And Brian said, well said, Thomas. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So I challenge each one of you guys and girls on this call, let's be aggressive, let's be bullish about being community minded. And in the process of doing that, it makes us better individuals. And I promise you, in that process, we become more professional, more community minded, and good things going to happen to us. We're going to find ways to put cheeks in the seats because the community will hear us. So let's just get up and just make it happen.
Amen. Love it.
And I will say here at Ticket Playbook, we have new tools coming out to help foster that engagement that you mentioned, Thomas. So probably a couple of weeks from now, we're going to have tools where even between these sessions, everyone can engage with ideas, bubble up those ideas, and help collaborate even more. And as a tech platform and as a tech person myself, at Spinzo, we're here to evolve the platform into whatever is needed. So if this industry becomes more community focused, and I don't think it's ever going to go away, but less of a focus on people in seats and more of a community focus, there'll be other revenue generating opportunities there. And we want to be there to help with that. We've got a flexible platform. We're taking ideas. We have a lot on the go now. So please write into us and let us know what you're looking for if you have these ideas. But we're going to have a tool that we can all use in a couple of weeks to help push on that.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we've done not too long ago, we started a diversity and inclusion council at our organization, and it puts us in a position where we have to think about not just us, but we got to think about how is life being a balance, and how do we create that balance with the people around us. And like, while we're reaching to the mountaintop, like, let's grab other people and take them with us.
Well said.
Other comments or questions? Sorry, go ahead, Carl.
I was just going to echo a lot of what Thomas just said. Thank you for putting that out there. Couldn't agree more. We all have a platform. Use it smartly, and just prepare your team and your reps for the pushback against it. Talking to my friends at the Bucks, like when the Bucks, boycotted the game, the amount of volume they had to deal with the next day, but they were great. They handled it. Even us, we put out, we're supporting the vote. We literally said, we don't care who you vote for, just vote.
Yep.
And oh my God, you should have seen the response we got. People, stay out of politics. This isn't your venue, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, like we know why we're doing it and we know it's serving a greater good. And then I also want to echo your part about professional development. Yeah. I mean, especially like the managers and leaders on this
Yep.
call, which if you're on this call, you're a leader. What are you doing to improve your skill set? Because a lot of us were really good salespeople. We know how to sell, but what are we doing to become better leaders and motivators and coaches? Like, how many books on leadership have you read during this pandemic? And how many of these types of webinars are you doing? How many times are you networking and reaching out to other leagues and other industries and other people to just brainstorm and get ideas? Like, keep pushing each other, because that's the only way we get better. That's why, like, let's face it, people, I'm old. I've been doing this for a long time, but I still get a lot out of these sessions that I take back to my team, and we grow. So right now I'm reading Insanely Simple. Oh, you can't even see it, but Insanely Simple.
Your fancy background.
I know. Insanely Simple, The Obsession That Drives Apple's Success, and Beyond the Obvious, Killer Questions That Spark Game-Changing Innovation. So far, so good.
Joey, I was just going to say the same. I'm
awesome.
not sure if Thomas read the room right when he said we were all in our 20s. I was like, man, I feel great if you think so much in my 20s. Thank you. That was the best compliment I've gotten all day.
That was pretty much what I had to say, right? Because one of the things I talk to my team about a lot, and I don't know if they get tired of it, but I don't care, is about, like, how are we being better people? Like, what are we doing regarding professional development? It may suck now, but trust you me, in the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to look back and say, wow, thank you for reminding me to work on my bank account. Thank you for reminding me to check my credit score. Thank you for reminding me to work out. Thank you for reminding me to join a nonprofit organization and be more civically minded. Like, that's where it is. That's how we're going to be better people. And by being better people, we're going to end up being perfect sales individuals.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
So Denise, thanks for allowing me to use this platform.
Absolutely. That's what this is for. This is not, our platform. It's for all of you guys. And so, as Emmanuel said, we are going to be coming up with some more tools. We're working on some more in-depth discussion sessions. So our schedule for next week is talking school programs, which I know is unique right now, knowing that schools are in the place that they're in. But I think there is a great opportunity to have a discussion about how can we reach out to those students and those families and those parents that are, struggling with virtual schooling versus in-person schooling. It's a really tough concept. And then the following week, we're going to talk tourism, but we're working on platforms. We're going to start launching it like league only discussions. So you can talk amongst people within your like league or even like sports. So those are in production. We're working on some of those. So stay tuned for that. And depending on what league or what sport you're a part of, we'll reach out to you as we start planning those. But thank you as always for everyone joining, and thank you for those that are chiming in and those that submitted questions. And if you have other questions or other ideas, if we want to put a topic out there just around personal development, we can schedule one of those and just talk about, hey, what are the best books? What are the best podcasts? What are the best things to do? Thomas, I'll get in touch with you. Maybe we can that can be an ancillary. We could do like a lunch and learn almost and have that do it. So, all right, guys, thank you again. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next week.
All right. See you guys later.
Take care. Thank you.